Right, so let's do this week's Street Talk then. Only 3 episodes. No, I can't even count. 4 episodes, sorry, to talk about this week. So, going to probably be a little bit shorter. I also felt that, I wasn't expecting to have to form a full opinion on this week quite this early in the week. But I think after Wednesday's episode, my general thoughts were, I hope it picks up a bit on Friday. I've read a variety of opinions online about this week's, but it still felt a little bit flat for me. I don't know whether it was going to pick up tonight or not, but I guess we'll just have to wait until Monday to see.
We'll never know.
We will know on Monday, Gemma. Don't worry about it. We're going to start off with the cutting ties story, which is Tyrone and Fizz and Alina and all that they're getting up to. Then heading over to the Leanne of Duty story, which seemed like it was building up to something quite exciting on Wednesday. Maybe some kind of conclusion or mini conclusion in tonight's episode again. We'll have to wait until Monday to find out on that one. The trolling storyline is next. And we had called it Trollololololly up until this point. But I've renamed this based on a comment that I put on Facebook the other week. See, to me, and I don't think I'm alone in saying this, it all seems to be getting a bit blown out of proportion, doesn't it, this reaction to Cathy and her online trolling spree. It's not even a spree, she said one comment once. So I'm calling this story Making a Mountain Out of a Troll Hill.
Love it.
And it doesn't work if you say troll hill, because it doesn't rhyme then, but I don't say troll, I say troll, so it's fine. We had a little bit more of the petering out story this week, tiny bit of Snarky and George, bit of Fei put away, and a bit of Seb and Nina budding. But not much to say about those, because they were only getting warmed up on Wednesday. Gemma, I'm going to pass to you today, my co-host, to tell us and remind us what happened this week in the cutting ties story. Are you ready? Are you up for the challenge?
I am, yeah.
Do it then.
I just wanted to say...
Oh, go on.
A funny thing, which I already have mentioned on this podcast, but it came up again on another podcast that I listened to, where it seems like Americans don't know the word row.
Row?
They say row, and they don't know what it means. A row.
Where did you see this on another podcast?
Another podcast. I think the word row is a great way to describe some of the things that have happened in Coronation Street. I think if you're listening to this and you're American, you know what a row is.
Oh yeah, we have them on air all the time, don't we? I prefer argy-bargy.
Now see, somebody was saying, what's the difference between an argument and a row? And they said that a row seems a bit more civilised and less emotional, but I would say completely opposite.
I would as well. I would say a row is a little bit more, hair tearing and a little bit more
emotional,
a bit more rude and a little bit more
like if you came home and said, I had an argument at work with somebody about something, I can imagine you saying, can you stop putting your dirty coffee cup in the sink and just put it in the dishwasher? And they said, why are you always having a go at me? And then we just went away and left each other. But if you said I'd had a row with somebody at work, I imagine you screaming through corridors and slamming doors.
Well, I would imagine. I would say a row gets more personal as well, doesn't it?
Yeah,
some real.
You always leave your coffee cup in the sink, you slovenly paragon.
Yeah, so it's a bit more personal. Yeah, insults. Yeah, but
so rowing
close to
is
the bone.
What you might do with your spouse.
Yes.
Or soon to no longer be partner. So
we had a bit of rowing.
And rowing in the streets as well.
Yes. Yeah, rowing in the streets. And
not arguments, rows, because you're emotive. So on Monday, Fizz is feeling optimistic. Don't forget, everyone, the week began with them about to embark on a lovely holiday together as a family.
Yeah, they're going to go off somewhere,
By the end of the week, Prince Philip's dead and they're going nowhere.
Yeah.
What a horrible week it's been.
Yeah, it's lockdown in Weatherfield. At last it's reached them. Nobody's allowed to do anything until Monday. Hold fire.
Everyone stop.
Don't worry, Leanne. Harvey's not going to get you because he is also locked down.
He's also very sad and in mourning, as he should be, watching BBC One and BBC Two going, why is the same thing on both channels? Gemma tells Fizz she should pack her 6 sexy gym jams, which I assume is, the normal gym jams, but with hearts on them or something.
It's the lacy slinky stuff that she's been making for herself at Underwear.
Too uncomfortable, and it also...
It's not the flannelette nightie.
It also generates too much static electricity, especially with that hair. Fizz tells Gemma about Tyrone asking Alina to leave and wanting nothing to do with her.
Yeah, this is why she thinks everything's going to be fine, because Tyrone's told Alina to leave, so... That's the last that she's going to have seen her.
She'll definitely respect his wishes and sling her ook. Beth has told Kirk not to talk to Alina. He tells her...
Kirk Kirk goes past Alina in the street, and he didn't want anything to do with it.
I don't know
She's
why.
like, "Oh, I love your little dog, your Peanut. Hello, Peanut." And he's like, "I'm not allowed to talk to you."
Yeah, but surely Kirk's already made this decision for himself last week.
I don't think Kirk makes any decisions for himself.
But why was he stealing biscuits from her?
I thought he was. Was he, or was he stealing biscuits? Oh yeah, no, he was, wasn't it? Well, Beth has confirmed this.
Maybe he was stealing biscuits. Like, you've only attracted him because of your stunning good looks and svelte figure. So I'm protecting you from
maybe
from a terrible fate by taking these biscuits away. You should just have a salad.
Yeah, that's it. That's got to be it.
So so Tyrone sees him and Sally bad mouthing Alina in the street, and she's like all flustered, and she drops a box, and he helps her, and Gemma sees this, and of course all hell breaks loose because he shouldn't be doing that.
I think that Alina and Cathy need to form like a support group together, don't they? Everybody hates us, society.
Yeah.
And we haven't really done a whole lot
We only
wrong.
did one thing wrong. But that's enough for you to be shunned forever. This is why I'm scared of being cancelled on this podcast. I've got to be careful what I say. I've already insulted biscuit eaters.
And ignorant anti-royalists.
I haven't got time for those sort of people. So Alina's very grateful. She says, I cannot move away. I have just paid a month's rent on my pop-up for pop-up, Alina's pop-up. And he says, right, just leave me alone then. Fine. You're the one that's picking her box up.
Tyrone, on Monday, I was just watching you and saying, leave her the heck alone, Tyrone.
Don't go near her.
He can't because he's in love with her,
I
apparently.
love you so much, your box is on the floor.
He was just, he's going to drop his boxes for her.
Yeah.
He was just there, he was waiting to rescue her multiple occasions in Monday's
just
episode.
being so
Oh my gosh, it's her box. Oh my gosh, it's the immigration. Oh my god.
Spoiler.
Yeah, well.
Wow. So, yes, Sally sees Fizz on the street and says, oh, Tyrone was touching Alina's box. So he comes home and she's absolutely furious about this. She's being sarcastic. She's like, told you not to touch the boxes, even if they're on the floor.
Innuendo,
because
love
they're
it.
dirty then, aren't they? Don't be touching dirty boxes from other women. So she's being really, really mean. And she calls her a simpering little cow, Alina. I would have used more colourful language perhaps, but I can sympathise. And this is really funny because I think it's very interesting to see different people's perspectives, because to me this was like, yeah, she should be mad and totally justified, and when you're mad with someone you are a bit mean to them, but everyone who's on Tyrone's side is like, further proof that
This
Fizz is
storyline
horrible.
has so split the fandom, hasn't it? And like everything that Fizz is doing, I'm like going, yeah, you tell him. If she'd said, which she did last week, stay away from her. I'm gonna, we need to try and sort this out. We're gonna go away. We're gonna try and make it up. And then he shouldn't. Somebody else could have helped her with the box. Kirk could have helped her with the box.
Can I just point something out as a feminist? She could have sorted her own box out.
Sorted her own box out. She doesn't need a man to help her pick a box up off the floor.
She was perfectly fine before he was there.
No. And so the fact that he was, made a beeline for her when Fizz had specifically said, stop sniffing around this Alina Pop woman, I don't blame her. She's right to give him both barrels.
I'm always somebody who I always seem to be contrary and take the opposite tack to what a lot of people think. And I don't really know why I do it. But I remember before this really got started, I really started to read what other people were saying. I was thinking to myself, but Tyrone's going to have such a hard time. I feel a bit bad for him. I won't rip into him too much on the podcast because, there's all different sides to a story. But the amount of people that seem to be taking his side, I'm like, nah, screw him. He's a grown man. He can deal with it. He's not even real. So I think he's an absolute...
He is total tool he's been this week, honestly. And
pile of dog poop.
Yeah.
Big pile of poop.
We did another poll on our Twitter this week. I don't think I've written the results down. Was it
was 61%?
Yes, 61% Team Fizz, 39% Team Tyrone, and Alan Halsell, who said he's happy with his 39%.
I just honestly think, objectively speaking, I think if you look at this on the facts of the matter, if you're not on Fizz's side, you're not seeing the situation correctly. But I will add, a lot of people obviously have had life experience that leads them to sympathise more with Tyrone, and I can totally understand that. But I really do think that if you're looking at this from a logical perspective, you can't take Tyrone's side, because Fizz and Tyrone have been living together as man and wife for years, raising a family together. She hasn't done nothing wrong or bad. I totally understand that people fall out of love with one another. That's a sad and tragic fact of life. But what you don't need to do is go around with another woman before you've even told your spouse there's any problems whatsoever in the marriage, and then blame her for everything, and then run off into the arms of this other person. And I don't care how old the other person is or what she looks like.
People are saying that Fizz has been nagging and being nasty and bullying Tyrone for many years now. And I get that also, it all comes down to kind of life experience and what you expect, because she has been, I would say, playfully teasing him, but Tyrone has been just as bad. I've said before to Evelyn, so that sort of making fun of her and teasing her about Arthur and things, and I'm sure he would to Fizz as well. I wouldn't say I've never seen Fizz say anything to Tyrone where she's been nasty to him, or for what a better word, where I've thought, oh, that was a bit too hard there, Fizz. But it also all ties back into, you know, what you think about Fizz as a character, and generally Fizz isn't liked by the fandom, I would say. So I think if you're the sort of person who doesn't like Fizz, then you're more likely to look at any criticism that she's given Tyrone over the years and gone, oh yeah, there she goes again, harping on, and he needs to sting her hook, or whatever she needs to sting her. That's what I'm thinking of. So I can totally understand how people who don't like Fizz have built up this opinion of her, whereas I like Fizz, and I think that any conflict really that we've seen in the relationship has been fairly minor. I mean, she was a saint for taking him back after he slept with Gemma, to be honest. I
mean, the fact
and also it's also, some people are saying it was just a kiss, and that is also going to be very, very dependent on different people and how you see that, isn't it? And for some people, just a kiss, some people would be able to forgive this, and some people wouldn't be able to forgive this. But I think what you probably wouldn't be able to forgive is when Tyrone later tells Fizz, actually, I do love her.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you naturally, just as a couple, would have discussions based on other people's behaviour or television or something about what you think is a red line that should never be crossed.
Yeah.
So I would imagine that they would be well aware of what each other expects and what is acceptable and what isn't. So we both know, you and I, Michael, know that would not be acceptable at all, and you would be kicked out. It's the same way as like what people think about things like strippers or going to a strip club.
Yeah, you're right.
There's red lines everywhere. It doesn't matter where you put them, as long as you both understand and agree that is an acceptable boundary that should not be crossed.
And they've been together, like you said, long enough where this would have been discussed. I don't think they really do anything apart from sit and watch TV in the evenings. They've had plenty of time to see various things on, you know, whatever they watch in the evening. Emmerdale, EastEnders.
Yeah, watching that, going, right, if you ever sleep with my best friend's husband's boyfriend's dad's cousin, I don't mind, but don't kiss them on the mouth.
Yeah.
Or, you know, things like that. So, yeah, I mean, it does fall down slightly when you say, oh, well, Tyrone slept with Gemma, but they were split up at that time. I honestly can't remember what happened with it, but they obviously moved on from there.
Yeah. Oh.
I just don't like hearing people saying, oh, it was only a kiss. I think that's so disrespectful. I really don't know how you can build your relationship on somebody just being able to go off and kiss somebody else. I think that's really weird, but whatever. You decide what you want. Not here to judge real people. This is the other thing. I just want to make it clear. We're not here to judge real people. This is a fictional situation, and we are invited by the very fact that we are watching them to make judgments upon people, and it isn't a nice thing really to do to real life people, but You know, it's a very natural human instinct, and so we can all exercise that and let it out of our systems by being horrible to either Fizz or Tyrone, depending on our circumstances.
Well, if we didn't have an opinion on it, it probably wouldn't be quite so interesting a podcast either, would it?
No.
Because either people are listening to us going, yeah, preach, Michael and Gemma, or they're shouting, no, what the hell are you talking about?
No, he's so bullied. And she's so mean. Look, I don't really think she's ever done anything wrong. I think that a bit of teasing is fine. I think that getting mad at each other is normal. I think that asking somebody to do something around the house is not abuse. I know a lot of men seem to think that it is, but actually doing some housework is not the worst thing in the world. That's all fine. But if you do have a problem in a relationship and you make no effort whatsoever to even mention the fact that you are, let alone attempt to fix it, and then you act like, you know, it's an irretrievably bad relationship and you both need to split up, I just think that's really bad.
Yeah, because when they had that long discussion a couple of weeks ago, Fizz was quite surprised when Tyrone said, I'm not happy.
He honestly, if it was that bad, and there's been nothing I've seen that was that terrible, he should have said something. And I cannot sympathise with this idea that you can spring it on somebody, that you're so deeply unhappy that you are allowed to cheat on them.
I suppose it's hard, isn't it? If you've been in this relatively long relationship and you're feeling sad that things aren't going the way you want to, on the one hand you might think, do I say something and risk making it worse, or do I say nothing and hope that it gets better?
It will never get better unless you say something.
Especially if a floozy Romanian nail technician comes along, fluttering her eyelashes with a sexy accent.
Certainly I am in no position whatsoever to give anybody advice about anything to do with a relationship, but surely, logically, you understand that if you're in a relationship and it's not going well, you have to say something. You can't just wish it. You can't just just hope it works out and one of you dies soon. What's the solution?
I suppose it's also because there's the whole kid angle involved, isn't there? And you think, if I say something now, it could risk, upsetting the children.
But the thing is, Michael, in this situation, it's all ended, hasn't it? So what benefit was it then?
Yeah.
So I don't know. So I've totally lost my will. I'm sorry.
We're just
a little bit of a
that was a massive side rant, wasn't it?
So he's So he walks into Fizz being sarcastic and mean. I can't believe the amount of men and women who think that a sarcastic woman is abusive. What is wrong with people? This country was founded on sarcasm. So anyway, he's
it really was.
He says, I was just helping her out like I would anybody. Just because I kissed her doesn't mean that I want her box as well.
He's so bloody stupid. If the Good Samaritan had been having a secret affair with the guy that was beating up on the road, he probably would have walked on by as well, wouldn't he? Because Mrs. Samaritan wouldn't like this.
She's gonna find
I'm sure
out.
somebody else will walk down. There's been 3 people down this road already in the space of 5 minutes. I'm sure there's a 4th one just coming. They can sort it out.
It's not my problem. I'm not interested, and she says, I don't care, I want her to go. I want her to leave for good. And he says, I'm trying. Can't you meet me halfway? What was that supposed to mean? Can't we kiss but without tongues? What does that mean? Meet me halfway?
I think it's because he's saying, look, she can't just pack up and leave.
Well, I don't agree with Fizz in this. I think that it would be very difficult to watch this woman and hanging around and be mad at her. That would be very frustrating, but you can't tell people where to live.
You can't.
I mean, we had Brexit and they're still here, Fizz. So I don't know what else you want. We still won't be. I'm making a joke because people think that you can tell people to go back where they came from. You can't. They're allowed here.
They don't have any right to kick Alina out. I mean,
they wouldn't have any right whether she was from Romania or I don't know, Rotherham.
I mean, Alina might, if she might, have a bit of reflection and think maybe I should move away at some point, maybe if I'm causing, because from what we've seen to her, she is kind of upset by the whole situation, and I think she probably does feel bad for the possible upset and splitting up this couple and everything. But I don't know, she just paid a month's rent. She just paid a month's lease on the Alina pop-up shop.
Well, you got a month to get out. No, I feel the same way. I would feel the same way as Fizz But I can understand it's really out of order to make someone feel uncomfortable in their own home. Fizz, that's how Fizz feels.
Yes.
So she must know that it's not a nice feeling. And especially considering that she probably... I mean, Alina feels bad already because her dog died recently. I haven't forgotten Alina. And everyone's turning on her. And she's already an outsider. It's already her second language that she's trying to navigate through everything in. And
she used to be a slave.
Hard life, isn't it?
Yeah.
I've seen some people... I've seen her, the actress who plays her, saying that some people on social media have told her to go back to her own country, which is so pathetic. I would hope that nobody would really say that, but you know what Twitter's like. It's a cesspool of humanity. So anyway, don't be mean to people in real life. Can we all agree on that?
See what's happening with Cathy?
Yes. I bet you Cathy's on there now going... This Alina pop-up thing, I would never go there because she's a slag.
Send, whoops.
Oh no, I've had too much to drink again.
Brian, can you take the rap for this one?
Brian, can I just have your login? It's easier. So anyway, right, so she's like, yeah, I'm trying to get rid of her, but she won't go. You know, she thinks she's got rights for some reason. Then he sees the immigration police raiding the salon and again runs over to help her. Don't know what he thinks he's going to do. Hello, Alina, don't worry, I've brushed up on my international immigration lawyer rights. I know all about it. If you've got a box that's on the floor, I can pick that up for you. And that's about all I can do, really. Talk to you about how much we both love cars. They both go to Vicky Gardens.
Because it's fine. She's not an illegal.
The immigration police, obviously... Like, is this what they really do? I don't know.
Storm the place.
Everyone, raid the salon. They're all there going, ooh, what do you think of this colour? Does it look nice on me? It's peach. What do you think? So he goes to Vicky Gardens with her. Fizz is ringing him. He ignores her, I guess.
Yeah.
Alina is saying, oh, they're so nice, but they are not charging me with anything. She gets reminded of when... they raided the nail bar. She's got a bit of PTSD going on here, and she's convinced that somebody has reported her because they thought she was working cash in hand, and she says she's not, and she's like really upset because she's playing by the rules. And I hate it when this happens. You spend all your life trying to do everything correctly and doing what you're supposed to do, and then somebody comes along and goes, oh, you've done it all wrong. And I'm terrified of things like that as well. She says somebody's definitely trying to get rid of me. I don't know I mean, surely she should be saying somebody else is definitely trying to get rid of me, not just you and Fizz. Tyrone thinks it's Fizz, doesn't he? He storms home and accuses her of reporting Alina. Gemma's there. There was no suspense in this. It was over as soon as it began. Gemma's there. She says, it was me, actually. And Tyrone's like, you shouldn't have done that. That's really mean. And Fizz is like, don't be mean to Gemma. Nobody's having a good time. Monday was a bad time for everybody. Alina goes back to her flat and cries. And Tyrone's still seething about Gemma. And
Fizz wants to know whether she's going to get apologised to.
Because he accused her of doing it. And he's like, well, you know, I think she's saying, I wouldn't be that mean. And they reckon they need to have a good, long talk. Emma offers a sympathetic ear to Alina, and she says it'll all blow over soon. I think she says something like, I don't agree with what you did, but I don't think people should be mean to you about it. This is one of those things where it's like, like, you shouldn't have done it, but it doesn't affect me, so I don't really care. You know, there's so many other things to worry about. And Emma's just nice anyway. If I was sad, I'd want Emma to pat my head, wouldn't you? Tyrone is in trouble, and he is apologising at last for accusing Fizz. I just put two and two together. I just felt that way, and he's trying to explain himself, and she's getting annoyed because he's finding it difficult to explain what he means. And she's like, what are you hiding? What are you hiding? And then she says, Tyrone, are you trying to tell me you love her? And he's like, I don't know. I just burped, sorry. That's what I would do. That's what I do when I'm on the spot. Quickly fart my way out of this one.
Tyrone is far too much of a gentleman for that, so he just says, yes, I do love her.
I do love her. I've got nothing in the can to come out. She says, that's tragic. And he says, I think she loves me too. Now, this is ridiculous. She says it's a breakdown or a midlife crisis or both. She's absolutely contemptuous. And he says to her, I love you too, but this is different. Oh my God, another knife in the heart. She's got tears in her eyes.
I love her in a sexy way, Fizz.
I love her because she's beautiful. I love you because you do my sandwiches, basically.
Yeah, I think it is.
He says, we can still go on holiday together. What are you thinking about? She says, no, we're going to tell the kids together today. And we're like, yeah, good luck with that. They've been on the sofa about a year.
But they showed us.
They did indeed. Alina's moping on the sofa later, going, oh, maybe it'd be better if I wasn't here at all.
Her own sofa, that is. She doesn't come round to
She's
Fizz
like,
and Tyrone.
yeah, she's just like draping herself, going, oh dear, I'm so sad. Tyrone, help me. Fizz and Tyrone get the girls on the sofa. They've appeared.
Hooray!
Root
It's
and Hobie back again.
It's been a
Everyone's
year since we've
favourite
seen them.
Dynamic duo. Love those two.
I think we maybe seen Hope more recently than we'd seen Ruby.
Ruby has grown up.
Ruby
so
has grown.
much. I was like, oh, I feel like one of these adults you used to get when you were a kid, and you wouldn't know who they were, and they'd be like, oh, look, it's Mummy and Daddy's friend, so and so, and they go, oh, look how big you are, and you'd be like, oh my God, who the hell are you?
I don't know whether Ruby actually got a line, did she? I think Hope maybe got one thing to say, but in any case, even if Ruby did get a line, this wasn't the opportunity for some sassy comment, was it? So
No,
we did,
not really.
Not really the best time to see her at her best.
So, very sad. They're trying to explain that basically the girls, their life is, as they know it, is over, really, isn't it? The family is broken now. They can never be a family again because of Tyrone. He can't get the words out, so Fizz does it for him. How nice of her.
She does it very softly.
That's what I'm trying to say. She has to do the emotional labour here of this guy who's decided to just wreck the family. And I understand that he has no control over his feelings about whether he loves Fizz or not. But I still think he is very selfish. But yeah, you can't stay together for the kids, can you?
Well, some people would say you could, but
they would be wrong, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
You don't stay together for the children. It's not good. It's not good for the children.
Anyway, I mean, there's plenty of examples of other children on that very street who've grown up in broken homes. So.
Well, I mean, if Fizz and Tyrone move out with other people and they could end up, having anyone as their uncle and aunt.
Yeah.
The sky's the limit. I mean, who do you want to be your new daddy?
Yeah.
Hope and Ruby. It could be anybody. Doesn't even have to be anyone single.
Yeah, but there's a Fizz. I'm gonna give you some choices. It could be Ryan. Could be we could bring back George. He could be a new dad, maybe.
Why are you going older? Go younger. So, Michael? You could have a baby sister.
Craig.
Craig is very young.
Yeah, nice. I bet he'd be good with kids.
I'm going to accidentally say somebody they're related to in some way if we keep going, so I'll stop there. Fizz explains that they are... I don't know what she says, but she doesn't drop Tyrone in it. And this is obviously the most mature and kindest way to tell the children, because the children don't need to hate their dad for this.
Fizz goes in for an off-screen hug, doesn't she? She's like going, because
Hope.
Hope's there crying, and Jenny McAlpine just like ducks below the camera and then cuts to the end of the scene.
Just assume that she was hugging her and not like smothering her with a pillow or something. There's no point being alive, children. Tyrone packs his bag.
I don't see Lucy in your...
This flipping watch.
Tell
I love
you
this
what,
watch, but
it's
it
a
keeps
good
doing
job.
that in the middle of lessons as well. Like randomly, my Siri on my watch just keeps saying, "I don't know that."
That's good. That's all it's
You can just do it again. What are you-
Can you throw it in the bin or something?
No, I love it.
Oh, okay.
I could put it on mute, but I'm not going to.
Tyrone has packed his bag and he's moving into number 13. Which one's that?
Kevin and Abby's house.
Oh, good.
Jack.
The soon-to-be wedded couple. I'm sure to enjoy Tyrone's company as they plan their wedding while he just mourns the loss of his relationship.
Yeah, not only this, the house that belongs to the person that split up his first marriage with Molly, but they're friends now.
They're friends now. You can just get over it. It doesn't take that long. They've said goodbye. She breaks down in tears as he leaves because... Sorry, I can understand, I understand that some people take different sides, but what I don't get, this is the thing I don't get, the total lack of sympathy for Fizz in any capacity whatsoever. I take Fizz's side, but I can certainly sympathise with Tyrone, and I feel bad for him because he's obviously not meant for any of this to happen. I don't think you should let him off the hook and I do blame him for it, but I can still sympathise with him. Why is it with people who sympathise with Tyrone that they can't see that Fizz has done nothing wrong and now her life is over as she knows it?
Oh, I'm sure there's a spectrum.
Well, are you trying to be nice to people that are fundamentally wrong and
I don't want to lose our listeners who are on Team Ty.
Yeah, there is a spectrum, but there are still people that just blame her for everything and can't...
Yeah.
I mean, for God's sake, she's not Tim. This is Tim's fault, isn't it? In some way.
Some way.
I'll pin it on him. On Wednesday, Chesney's come round and Fizz has phoned Evelyn and told her, and she wants to string Tyrone up. I miss her so much. I wish that she was there. I really would love to see Evelyn tearing a strip off Tyrone.
I think I'm glad that she's taken Fizz's side over on this, because they could have had it. You know,
I don't
if
see
she'd
how
been there,
you would.
But you never know who's going to take whose side, do you?
But I mean, if she thinks about it for any length of time, she'd realise that if Alina could be her new step granddaughter, she'd get free nail stuff. Yeah. What do you get with Fizz? Free Piccadilly sandwich?
Antiques.
Fizz confirms there's no way she's splitting the girls up or getting back together with Tyrone.
Evelyn didn't like Fizz for a long time at the beginning, did she?
This was weird because when we spoke about this originally, we just thought, Fizz will take Hope and Tyrone will take Ruby.
Yes.
I don't know whether that was something that we said because we don't have children and we think that would be a logical thing to do.
Well, that's because there's no legal fostering or adoption or anything like that, is there?
No, but it doesn't have anything to do with it.
But Fizz is saying we're not splitting the girls up, which does make sense because Ruby has never known life without Hope. Hope's known life without Ruby, but although she was relative.
But also Ruby's
always
always seen Fizz as her mum.
Yeah.
I think it's really also weird, but obviously I'm not a man and I don't have children, that Tyrone's just like, yeah. I don't know if Tyrone's agreed to this or what he thinks or if he's even thought about it at all. But if I was moving out, I would probably want to take my children with me.
I think he realises that he's in the wrong.
But everybody also keeps pointing out that this is Tyrone's house that they're living in.
Yeah.
I think he's doing the decent thing here because he's the one that's got the problem. He's the one that wants to change things. So he's the one that can move out and he's the one that does, is going to have to allow... I don't know. He hasn't got anywhere to go if he's letting her stay there. But I think that's the right thing to do, especially if she's taken the children.
I don't know whether long term, he can just say, "Oh, fine, I'm going to move out, move on, and the house is yours now." Fizz. It's just
he won't do that.
A quick and temporary measure, isn't it? She wants him out, and if she's staying there with the girls, he doesn't want to throw the girls out as well as Fizz. I mean, Fizz could go and stay with Maria or Toya or someone, couldn't she? But the kids probably couldn't. So, and because Tyrone, because he feels guilty about it, he's probably punishing himself by moving out. And he probably loves going to live with Kevin. They can just drink beer and watch football together.
Abby.
Yeah, all three of them can drink beer and watch football and talk cars together.
I just think it's really sad. I understand some people think it's mean or unfair that Fizz gets this house that they say she has no rights to because it was left to Tyrone.
Yeah.
But she does have rights.
Well, I can't remember whether it was left to him or whether he bought it off of Jack and Vera. I can't remember how it worked. But yeah, you're right. She has lived there now for 8 years.
And think about this.
It's a common law situation, isn't it?
Well,
not that exists.
We got into this in the Facebook group, and I can't remember most of the details, but I don't want to get into it again. But just imagine that you're in a relationship with somebody, and out of the blue one day they say, "Not only am I not happy and have not been happy for a long time, and haven't mentioned it to you, but I also love somebody else, and also I want to make you homeless." Now, I can't see how anybody, unless they're really malicious, thinks that's a nice or good or logical thing to say.
Yeah. If Fizz had been the one snogging Seb, let's say, then I think she would have left. Maybe with the girls.
I really don't know.
Don't know. I mean, it's traditionally they stay with the mum, don't they? As you know.
Well, that's how it normally goes.
Yeah, Fizz would never do anything like that.
Of course not.
Perfect.
So yeah, he she's taking the girls. She doesn't want to get back with him. Tyrone's at work and he's saying to Kevin that he feels like he's done the right thing to move out. Then he tells Alina what's happened.
He gets used to the idea quite quickly, doesn't
He's
he?
like, brilliant.
He says, "I'm free now," and it
It's
does.
Free from what?
It does look.
Pick a lily.
It does look like, you know, a massive weight has been lifted off his shoulders, and yeah, he's ready to start
weird.
a new chat. It is odd
Because I don't think he quite understands what has really happened.
No.
So they arrange to have a walk together later tonight, and then Ches has a row with Alina and Tyrone.
And it was more a one-sided row, wasn't it?
This was the most I've ever liked Chesney for years, because he tells them both, like, first of all he sees Alina and he's like, yeah, you horrible home wrecker, and then Tyrone's like, oi, leave her alone, and then he says, yeah, you're worse, you're the worst one of all, you're worse than Hitler.
I do feel a bit sorry for Alina. I think she kind of got carried away in the moment, and I know...
No, because I don't feel sorry for her, because at the very beginning, before it all started, she was saying, oh, no, Tyrone, or she definitely said something like, you have a family, and I don't want to break them up or get involved. And then she did it anyway.
No, I thought that she said that since the kiss.
No, I think she said it before. I'm almost certain that she did.
No,
and even if she did,
so.
Okay, even if she didn't, is she blind and stupid and lives in a parallel dimension, or is she well aware of the fact that Tyrone already has a girlfriend and a house and children?
I know.
So I don't feel sorry for her. You don't need to kiss people when they're still going out with someone else.
Well, she's kind of regretting everything that's happened by the end, doesn't she?
I guess the only thing that I would say is that I can some people would probably say, well, it's one thing to break up your family because you suspect you might have feelings for somebody else, but it makes more sense to do that if you're absolutely sure. And the only way you can be sure is if you're having an affair with them. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I still don't agree with it. No.
Well, Alina she kind of shocked Ty at the end of the episode, doesn't she?
They also say it doesn't really matter whether I agree with it or not. I hope nobody really cares what I think, but it's just part of the discussion. You shouldn't really care what I think about it. If you want to do that, it doesn't affect me at all. Carry on.
Tyrone gets a bit of a rude awakening from Alina at the end of the episode by saying, when she says, I'm free, and she's like, well, sorry, we're not getting together. A couple of episodes ago, you wanted me to leave town, and now you're telling me you want to move into me. Sorry, nothing can happen between the two of us. Okay, so that's a bit of bad news.
That took the wind out of his sails, didn't it?
Yeah, but I still think she's going to change her mind.
I still think they're going to end up together. But I kind of liked him being this was like, he's so entitled, wasn't he? He's like, I don't want to be stuck with this woman and these kids and this house. I want this sexy lady. I'm going to go and get her. Because she's sexy and I'm a man. And then she went, no. And he was like, what? No, hang on a minute. That's not how this is supposed to go.
Yeah.
It's so ridiculous. It's honestly so ridiculous. If he thinks he's sick and tired of Fizz, why does he think that a woman he does not know at all is going to be any different or better, or... You know, what does he imagine when he thinks of his life with Alina? Just exactly the same as Fizz, except she doesn't say take the bins out.
Yeah, he's not thought about it. I think he's just.
He doesn't love her. He's just met her.
That's the I mean, when he said that he loved her on Monday, I was like, oh, was it Monday or Wednesday? I can't remember. I thought, no, you don't, Tyrone. And he's had, it's been what, 2 months, maybe 3 months that she's been in his radar.
Yeah.
And I know some people can fall in love quickly and everything, but it's clearly just an infatuation. And when Fizz was saying you're having a midlife crisis, you're pathetic, I was thinking. A little bit. He doesn't really know much about her.
No, he doesn't. The thing is that the English language has failed us quite severely when it comes to the word love, because we use the same word to describe many different types of love, which is not helpful.
Like how you can love a car or a dog.
Yeah, or like familial love, like love for your friends. The love of the love at the beginning of a relationship is sort of a chemical, like hormonal lust, between two people, and then it normally, in a long-term relationship, it mellows out and it becomes a sort of a more, mature and
putting up with each other.
I'm trying to think of a way of saying it, but like you become family. I've said this before. You become each other's family, and it's a deeper bond than you get at the beginning of a relationship. But we use the same word to describe all of them. So when Tyrone says, "I love her," that love is a different feeling to the feeling he feels for Fizz, because the love for Fizz is the same as he would feel for somebody else in his family.
Yeah.
But he wants something more from Alina. He wants this different type of love.
Yeah. Well, I don't think. Yeah.
But it won't last forever. And then when that goes away, what is he left with? Somebody that he doesn't know. He comes from a different country, and that's fine. But what does he know about Romania? Like, does he understand her culture or her background? Is there something that is going to surprise him? Or is there something that he's assuming about her that is completely untrue? What does she think about, politics? Is she religious? What's her favourite food? What was her dog's name that died? How many relatives has she got? Does she want to live in Romania or the UK?
You don't know how much went on when she moved in with them for a little bit, do you? They could have had long philosophical discussions into the wee hours about many a topic, but...
I don't think so, but I know what you're saying.
It feels now that it's being a little bit rushed. And
it really would have made more sense if we had seen them...
foolhardy.
If we'd seen them actually talking. Because one of the reasons I think I'm so dismissive about this relationship is that we have seen none of it, apart from them kissing and him helping her with his spreadsheet once.
Yeah, well,
if
and looking after her when a dog died and bonding over cars.
It was all
flimsy.
so quick and so silly and so surface level. Coronation Street kind of hasn't set themselves out very well for me to sympathise with Alina, and I would have been a lot more torn if I had seen them genuinely getting on with one another and really having heart-to-heart conversations and learning about each other, and in that learning growing to admire and understand one another in a different way, and perhaps even having a conversation where maybe we'd seen Alina and Tyrone talking about something and coming to a decision together about what they think about it, and then maybe him bringing it up to Fizz and her going, well, that's stupid, I don't agree with you, and then dismissing him, because that would have symbolised the whole thing,
I mean, with me, I'm comparing it very unfavourably to the blossoming of Roy and Hayley's romance, which is playing out on ITV3 at the moment. And these two who've known each other for not very long at all, but seem so well suited to each other, and they've had some of these conversations, and they just seem like a perfect match, and not at all like two characters that have just been thrown together because that'll put the cat among the pigeons, which I can't help but think, this is just a product of an idea at a storyliners meeting rather than something that naturally makes sense and fits. But
what we're saying about different people and different circumstances having different opinions about it, certainly don't want anyone who's been in a similar situation to listen to this and think, making judgments about me and I feel bad about it. But each situation is different.
Yeah.
And my point really is that if Coronation Street had wanted me to sympathise with Tyrone and Alina, they could have done it. So to say that I would always automatically hate the idea of this and say that whoever did it was wrong and I have no sympathy for them is wrong, because if they were to do it properly, which I don't think they have done, I definitely could have been manipulated into having a different opinion on it completely. And when you're in that situation, of course, your opinion is going to be completely different, and you're going to understand the circumstances of how you feel much better than any outsider ever would.
Which is this is what makes it a successful story, really, for me, because I don't really know whether Coronation Street are supposed to be, whether they want us to be taking Tyrone's side or Fizz's side. I don't think it's immediately obvious that Coronation Street are vilifying either party.
I'm just going to say, they're certainly giving Tyrone a lot of leeway to not be the villain.
Yeah, they're making him seem quite soft and sympathetic and looking sad about it. And yeah, they've had, the dirty dogs of the past look a lot dirtier than Tyrone is. So we'll see where it goes from there.
And also, I also want to say, I feel very privileged to not have had this to worry about in my life, and I've had a very easy life. So I don't want people to think I don't realise that.
No, I know. Right, Leanne off duty then. So Monday was the big episode for them. Wednesday? No, actually, it was
Wednesday.
both quite big. Yeah, that Wednesday. It all went down on Wednesday. All right.
Didn't get to see it though.
So Leanne and Simon are getting
Can
ready.
I just say before we do this,
Yeah.
I understand if you have been a police informant. I really want you to know that I feel for you. Also, if you're a drug dealer, don't feel bad about us being mean about Harvey here. We understand he probably has his reasons for dealing drugs, and it can be very difficult if you come up on a rough estate and you don't know how to make your way. Perhaps you're bad at school and you don't know what to do, and maybe one day somebody gives you some drugs and then you sell them, and you finally realise what your purpose in life. Also, if you're a police officer and you set up a sting and it goes wrong and you nearly get your witnesses killed, I just want you to know we don't blame you. We understand it's a very difficult job.
Come on,
also, if you're a storyliner in Coronation Street and you're trying really hard to come up with something good and you just can't, we feel for you. We understand.
Leanne and Simon are preparing for a late Easter / Peter birthday bash thing. I don't think Peter's got the blindest idea what's going on with his son.
No.
I know there's no change there then or anything, but he's been happily pottering on with his jigsaws just round the corner from all this drama going down all week.
I tell you what, if you want a good gift idea for Peter, blanket or a jigsaw puzzle.
Yeah. Anyway, Harvey texts Leanne and he's sending someone over to collect some drugs from Leanne later. And so Leanne says, look, Simon's not staying with me. She's been involved in the police, obviously. And she says, look, Simon, the police are going to send somebody round to keep an eye on the flat. So it's all right. You don't need to stay here. It'll be fine. So she goes off talking to this detective, Beardy, later. And he's reminding her that, you can pull out whenever you want. We don't have enough evidence on Harvey though, so we don't really want you to pull out, but you can if you want to. So he kind of guilt trips her
This
into
is like
keeping
when
on
you
with
go
it,
to
basically.
the hospital or whatever, and you have to have something done to you, and it has a risk attached to it.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, we can take your kidney out, but it might kill you. So
You
just
sign
sign
this bit of
form to
paper
say
and
that
it's
if
fine
we
if it
kill
goes
you,
wrong.
you don't mind.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh.
So anyway, they have to do it. And Leanne goes home and she finds that somebody is in her flat. Not Harvey, nor Ned, but Nick. He's looking for his laptop charger.
How has he coped with this all this time? He hasn't needed his
Well, I guess he's been round there.
laptop charger.
Don't ask me. Anyway, she tries to get rid of him and he can tell that something is up. And she says, look, Nick, sorry, you can't keep waltzing in here whenever you feel like it. Sling your hook. He slopes off and he's kind of... It's slowly dawning on him that it is all over for them. For now, I'm sure they'll be fine. But he thinks it is unsalvageable. So he also has to leave his home, which is actually his. I mean, he's been out of this for ages, hasn't he? But I think some people have been saying online, it's Nick's house.
I really don't understand how this has happened.
Yeah.
I know that this is the thing, I know a lot of the time your criticism of people definitely falls down the lines of like gender and whether you're a man or a woman and how you feel you've been treated and so on. And I often will say quite dismissive things about men, but obviously it's mostly in jest. I hope people understand that. But I've also seen lots of people saying that Coronation Street is like being really sexist in that the women just seem to like stay in the house when they have an argument and the man has to leave no matter who's in the right or who owns the house. But it is true to say that both Nick and Tyrone have now been sort of had to leave their houses that they own.
Leanne's been through quite a tricky time, hasn't she, these past 6 months? So I guess Nick's just being nice to her. Anyway, Nick's gone, and then this Ned comes round. Harvey's lackey Ned comes round for a spot of cuckooing, which we know all about.
Yeah, do you guys remember mentioned
cuckooing?
this? Yeah.
We said that this would happen, yeah, when drug dealers install themselves in some poor vulnerable person's house to set up their evil druggy ways.
And it came up in Line of Duty.
Yes, it did come up in Line of Duty this week. We're ahead of the curve with this.
Yeah, we're educated. You wouldn't know it though.
Leanne is full of questions for Ned, and he starts to suspect that she's wearing a wire. And then she's like, "No, I'm not." She says, "Look, I wouldn't be so stupid. I wouldn't be a grass. That would be ridiculous. Of course not." And he's like, "No, you wouldn't, would you? Not after what that Harvey did to Jacob." And she's kind of realising still. I mean, she must have thought about it before that. it's a somewhat dangerous situation, but he's just reminding her of the fact that Jacob's got both his legs broken thanks to making an enemy of Harvey, basically. Leanne's trying to be a bit tough, and she's winding Ned up about his name, about what it's short for. She's
Nedrick.
yeah. He goes off for a waz, and Simon wants to know, what on earth you playing at, Mum? She says, look, I'm just showing that I'm no pushover here, and he thinks that she's playing a very dangerous game, like Russian roulette, or
Chicken.
yeah, or mousetrap, if you're a mouse.
Or Monopoly, and not using the official rules.
Monopoly, but instead of using little silver top hats, you use razor blades
Yeah, and you have to pick it up every time.
with your mouth. So Leanne says, I'm going to go out to get some sanitary towels, Ned. And he doesn't believe her, but he lets her go anyway. And she's actually with the copper, and they're gonna tail Ned to the drop-off point. There's a sting on Wednesday.
I don't follow any of this, and I don't really care about it.
It still feels relatively low stakes for me.
This is the trouble about this. It's like, unfortunately, sometimes when Coronation Street does things like this, all it's doing is a pale imitation of things that have been done so much better and with so much more, I don't know, like authority, and it just feels silly when Coronation Street does it.
Sometimes Coronation Street can do it well. It just I've said it for weeks that this doesn't feel dangerous enough.
No, it doesn't.
And Jane Danson is doing her best. She looks worried. She looks anxious, and
both her and
Alex Bain is doing a good job.
They both are doing their absolute best and working really well, and I'm totally unconvinced by their performances. But at the end of the day, I know that nobody's going to be cutting Leanne's ears off and feeding it to Simon, so I don't really. Oh, what's going to happen? This is the trouble. The trouble with Coronation Street is that there really is no. What's the worst thing that can happen? They go to prison. Well, guess what? They've got a prison set now, so they're still going to be in the show. do you see what I mean? Like, what bad thing can happen? Nothing really. They go to prison and they do yoga.
They could kill off, Simon
They're not
or
going to
Leanne.
kill off Simon or Leanne.
And
if they do, I'll take my hat off to them. But at the end of the day, the stakes are like what the stakes. They can't be. Even if they were high, it has no effect anymore. And I do appreciate the fact that they put in a prison set, and I do like it when we follow the characters into prison. But to me, that all that's done now is gone. Well, going to prison doesn't make any difference. It's literally just they change the set that they're in. And when they get out, it has no effect on them. Like think back to the first episode of Coronation Street. Elsie and Dennis are having an argument about the fact that he was in prison and now he can't get a job. What difference does it make to anyone on Coronation Street at the moment? Nothing.
Yeah.
They don't care.
Yeah, that's true.
Leanne and Simon involved in this drugs thing.
I still
What's he
think.
going to do? Cut her finger off? No, they're not going to. Because they'll just have to make Jane Danson wear gloves for the next 20 years.
There have been plenty of times on Coronation Street where stakes have been raised, where even though I know that a character's not going to be killed off, you kind of you go along with it. Like through a lot of the Phelan stuff, he was a really menacing villain, and the people he set his sights on,
because
they were able to make.
They might die or something.
But it's also to do partly with the script, partly with the performances, but also partly with the direction, or making things at night time sometimes is enough to make it a bit scary, or having some real close-ups with the camera or something. It's just this story isn't getting that.
See, that's the other thing. Yeah, the stakes are low because they don't go anywhere.
Yeah, and I do think that Will Mellor is being a very good baddie. He doesn't have the campiness of someone like Callum Logan, for example, and even Callum wasn't too bad, to be honest. He's no Mick the gangster, is he? I think he's doing a great job, but they're just not doing enough. They haven't done enough to make him any more than a cut-out drugs dealer. Yeah. We're not seeing enough of him. Anyway, Wednesday, we hear that... Well, on Monday we also found out that Ned has found that the pickup's been cancelled because Harvey thinks somebody's on to him. So Wednesday, Ned's had a lovely night's sleep on the sofa or wherever. Harvey's going to come round later. Imran's trying to phone up Leanne to come into work, but she ducks out of it, pretends that she's sick. And then Toya and Nick later see Harvey go into Leanne's flat, and obviously they think that she's seeing this bloke behind.
Well, Toya knows that because Imran told her that Leanne's not going to work.
Yeah.
So then she sees Leanne with this man.
She's going to grass her up. There's Battersby. They're both a pair of grasses, aren't they? Harvey heads off with the drugs. He's collected them. He wants to take Simon as insurance, just in case it goes wrong. And Leanne's like, no, take me instead. And Harvey's like, no, thanks. I'll have Simon. Simon says, don't worry, ma'am. I'll be fine. So they all go off for their whatever. And so Leanne goes to meet up with DC What's-His-Face again over in Kitchener Street, which again, I'm getting a bit sick of that being the de facto, the default place for
dodge area
for secret meetings. It's not Coronation Street's fault. They just don't have very many places that they can go at the moment. But so Leanne is begging the police officer to stop this sting because of Simon's involvement in it, and he's not going to do it because they're so close. So sorry, Leanne. I know we said that you can duck out of it any time, but now's not the time. Toya has a go at Leanne in the street for throwing her life away. Leanne's not having any of it.
Because she says, we've all given you so many chances.
Yeah.
And, if
now you're having it off with this
wouldn't you be baffled?
bloke.
Like, you kicked Nick out because you said you couldn't cope.
Yeah.
And then you're shagging this rando guy. What's going on?
Yeah. Simon calls Leanne from the police station later, tells her all about the sting. Harvey got away, and he's coming for you.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so it looks like... it's not gone quite to plan, sadly, for the police. Leanne, the next scene, she's dithering in the flat. And if I was Leanne, I'd be out of that flat.
She's so stupid. She's going, but I need to make sure I got my khakis.
Got to take my sanitary towels.
Yeah, I need to. I want my lip balm. I need to get my nice. I'll get my nice hand cream because that'll be a nice treat when I'm on the run.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get a headscarf to disguise myself. Sunglasses.
Boom! In bursts Harvey, kicks the door down and says, "Where do you think you're going, grass?" And this.
Like if I was on the phone to my son and he's going, "Oh, this thing went wrong," and Harvey's after you, I'd be like, "I'm in Costa and I'm running."
Yeah, but she does it, and this part of the week, I was like. Ooh, okay. It's starting to get interesting now. It could have gone down some kind of, hostage route. Again, I'm thinking, this reminds me of, do you remember when Shona went off with Clayton in that house that one time and she ends up exactly. Ends up getting stabbed. That was a tense situation. So I thought maybe we're going to get something like that.
No, because
we don't.
She goes, I don't do it. And he goes, I believe you.
Yeah. And then he starts thinking it's Simon because he didn't try and run when the police came along. And then Leanne says, no, it wasn't, it was me. So
that was weird.
He leads her back out into the car, but they're both dithering around for a little bit, and the police come just in time, armed police, no less, and Harvey snarls to Leanne that he's gonna get her.
Oh.
Uh-oh. So the detective takes Leanne inside. Harvey's going down, apparently. And as long as she goes to the station to give a witness statement, everything is going to be okay. And he says, look, I'm gonna do whatever I can to protect you before you go to court. They kind of talk about witness protection and stuff, don't they? And disappearing.
Right, yeah.
But I don't know. At this point, I was just like,
what's going to happen?
The excitement that they built up from this, him kicking down the door, just turned into,
I've just spent this whole time with this drugs thing, and I don't know what it is. This whole time just feeling like, oh god, that's so annoying.
It started off well,
but
and it's not just like they haven't got Jacob anymore or anything, because he was great. I don't know,
it feels like to me
hitting the right
is like a
notes
series of things that are just complicated and annoying. Like when you're at work and you're trying to do something, and then it turns out that you need to ask somebody else to do something, and they have to ask. You know what I mean? It just feels like a complication of a chore that you're not that into and you don't care about. That's how this whole story feels. Oh, Leanne's now a police informant. Oh god, that's complicated then, isn't it? Now that's added another thing. And when Leanne and Simon's like, oh, I accidentally became a drug dealer, and now I'm a drug dealer, and now you're a drug dealer. We both have to deal drugs together. He's like, oh god,
I know.
I can't tell the police because I did this. Oh no, again.
But at least we did have the high point of Dev trying to convince the police officer that they're not doing drugs drugs in the chip shop, which was probably one of my scenes of the week. I mean, it doesn't take much to have a scene of the week. You just got to be deaf and say something.
Something funny.
But he was like, "No, man, we don't do drugs. We do fish and chips and pie and chips, kebab and chips, man." And Simon, you're not doing drugs with Jacob, are you? I don't think Deb has realised that Jacob hasn't been to work for the past month.
The fact that he's referencing a guy that has like been at death's door for a month makes me think he's not as involved in his business as he probably
Yeah,
should
so
be.
I think he's dropped himself in it. There could be an undercover drugs operation there going under his nose and he wouldn't have a clue. He's too busy with the shop, too busy with his errant teenage daughter.
Yeah, do you get in trouble if your chip shop's being used as a front for a drugs ring, but you didn't know?
I swear I didn't know, Gov.
And can we also just point out...
I've got so many businesses, man. I can't know everything that happens in all of them.
Can we just point out that the front page of the Weatherfield Gazette or Recorder, I can't remember which one, recently was that the local newsagent snagged somebody off on the internet. They would cream their pants if they heard there was a drugs ring being run out of the local chip shop.
I know.
And when you go, if you were like the reporter, when you'd be like, isn't that the other end of the road where the guy's just been vandalised for being mean about a dead child?
There's so much that goes on in Coronation Street. If I was in charge of the Weatherfield Gazette, I'd set up an offices.
Yeah.
Just so that I could be,
just report on all then, like what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
Like last week, there was a traffic jam because an insane woman made a cafe in the middle of the road.
Anyway, what else was happening? So Leanne tells Simon that she's going to do a witness statement tomorrow, then do a runner. Well, that's been put on hold now for the moment. Toya comes over to the flat to find out what the flaming heck's going on, Leanne. And Simon, and this is where she finds out that her sister's been dealing drugs.
Leanne lies. She says, Simon's not been dealing drugs. I have. It's like you both have.
You both have been doing a little bit, haven't
you?
Toya doesn't say, "Oh, you mean, like with James Quigley?" Still nobody's brought this up.
No.
Leanne's massive history with drugs 20 years ago. And Leanne says to Toya, "Look, if we wanted to go into witness protection, it'd be forever, cutting all ties from anyone." And the girl's watching this going, "Oh, it won't be there, will it? It's not going to be."
No,
Toya's feeling useless all this time, and she's like, "Why can't you come and see me sooner? I'll do everything I can to help." And actually, but Leanne's going to do what's best for Simon, basically.
Well, the obvious thing is then that Harvey's going to die at the end of this, because that's the only way that the show can have Leanne in it without the whole thing being a farce, to say that she can never be safe again because Harvey's got it in for her.
He can go down for a long time. But the thing is, he's got his little network of...
Yeah, exactly. So he would be in prison going, right, now you take her out because she got me in here.
Yeah, I guess it's a consequence of the trying to raise the stakes and be a bit sensationalist about it. It's a bit like having quads, really. Where are you going to go from there?
The quads have quads.
Oh my gosh. It's like as I was going to St Ives, I met a man saying, each quad had 4 quads.
Oh no, thank you.
Anyway, it wasn't rubbish. I just feel, as I was watching it, it's just thinking I'm not being as excited as I should. And also, if we didn't have COVID, it would be a lot more exciting because we would have seen the sting, for example.
This is the thing. They've done it before. They can't get away with it as much as they think they can, to have a character describe exciting things that have happened off screen.
Yeah, I wouldn't say they're doing it more and more, but
sometimes it works, but other times it just feels like you just feel cheated.
Yeah, because they absolutely would have shown it under normal circumstances.
It would have been
and
really
I can't blame
exciting.
Coronation Street, really.
No,
But it doesn't make it any better.
I don't know what the schedule is, or why this had to be done now. But I just can't help but think this is another one of these stories that really should have waited. I don't see.
I don't know how well that they can do that, because these things are planned so far in advance, that they might have thought, well, this maybe we'll be able to film back to normal by the time it happens, and even if we don't, that's one little mini bit in the story. We can still mostly do the story. It fits because it's going to gel in with all these other interlocking stories and everything, and to not do it would this would probably screw up many. It'd ripple, wouldn't it? But I couldn't help thinking.
But at the same time, half-arsing something is not beneficial to your ratings.
No. Oh, I don't know. So we will find out on Monday what happens there. I mean, to be fair, I think Jane Danson deserves a break by now. So if she's going to go off and be in witness protection for a little bit, that wouldn't surprise me. Is she going to go with Nick? Maybe. Gemma's shrugging for the benefit of the tape.
I don't care. Honestly, don't care.
Well, we'll get a little breather from it soon, maybe. It's a shame because the story had the potential to be really good.
Really, like you guys all know, I never really liked Leanne, and I found her quite insufferable and very annoying. And Jane Danson, I've always said, is a fantastic actress, and she plays Leanne very well. And she definitely won me over with Ollie's story because I found it quite refreshing that they weren't sort of not like making her into a saint suffering through this horrible ordeal. Like she was objectionable and difficult, and I thought that was honest and refreshing way to portray like a parent who was going through a traumatic time. But now I'm just a bit fed up with her, and I don't care because I don't like. I want to like her more than I do, but she's not very sympathetic, and she doesn't seem to do anything that makes sense, and she just makes everything worse.
She's trying to protect her son. She's already lost one son. She doesn't want to lose another one, so she's putting herself in the line of danger.
Also is that I'm like, Simon's not that good. Simon's not worth it.
Yeah. Use him as a human shield. Right, let's move on.
And also Simon, I don't feel anything for him. If Harvey chopped him into bits and like put him in the freezer and like made Leanne do a nice bolognese out of it, I would go, that's pretty bad. Do you know what I mean? But I wouldn't go, that's tragic and sad.
We've got a bolognese in the fridge. Are we having that for dinner tonight?
We are.
Lovely.
And it is not made of tiny bits of human.
Okay, good. Yeah.
Do you see what I mean? I just think kind of unsympathetic
I
characters played by great actors, but if they got minced at the end of it, I kind of think it was funny.
Right, let's move on to the next story.
Sorry.
We've got very little to say about that one.
It's so funny, isn't it? Like, how I can get so, like, mad at, like, Tyrone for kissing someone, and then, like, Leanne and Simon, like, the victims of this horrible, evil, manipulative crime organisation, were like, blah, 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 I don't care.
It's just because that one feels more relatable, I guess, and this does happen to other people, doesn't it?
I don't imagine it happens to
us.
the in the frequency that we should worry about what people think about listening to this podcast, or to the frequency that happens on Coronation Street itself.
One of the things with the Simon with the Tyrone and Fizz storyline is there has been a few scenes of good, just honest dialogue going on, hasn't there?
What?
In the Fizz and Tyrone story, you mean that long.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
maybe
because it's a human story.
Yeah, whereas this is more sensationalist, and there's been a few little scenes, but not to the same degree. I don't know. Let's do the next story. I don't think we're going to have a whole load of good stuff to say about this one either, are we? We're going to be mentioning
this is such a miserable podcast.
Sorry.
Dear. Making a mountain out of a troll hill on Monday. No customers at the cabin. Brian's on the front of the Gazette. There's this article about Tracy's bad mouthing him.
Slow news week.
Journalist incredibly irresponsible here for not pointing out something like Tracy Barlow still?
McDonald.
Tracy McDonald. How old is she? 37 or whatever?
No, she's not the same age as us.
How old is she?
I don't know.
Answer the question.
Early 40s?
I don't know.
Mid-40s?
Alright then, Tracy McDonald, 44, of Weatherfield, also ex-murderess, who was released after evidence was tampered. You know, Wouldn't you investigate it a little bit more and go, this is actually a pretty good story? Like, feud Like, murderess's feud with local newsagent. Much better headline than whatever they came up with. Local troll lives in cabin. Anyway, Brian sees David walking past. He's bought a paper from across the road. Dev started selling them. Brian's absolutely seething. He goes into the corner shop and has a go at him. And he's like, you've been asking for it after what you did to Steve. And later on, the cabin window gets smashed. He's cleaning it up and Tracy sees him and has a rant at him. And Cathy has enough and says, you know what? I'm Lemon Drop. And Tracy's like, how dare you let him take the blame? What kind of person does that? And you thought all of this was bad before. It's only going to get worse now.
Oh, no.
On Wednesday, things are still going badly. Brian tells Cathy she should have kept her mouth shut. In the cafe, Cathy gets both barrels from Tracy. Bernie stands up for her. Cathy's quite grateful, and she has a nice hot chocolate with a flake in it, which I always think is a bit overkill, but, you know, I'm not here to judge, as I keep saying after judging people. Cathy...
I had another hot chocolate and dunking a brioche roll in it the other day. It was nice.
Oh, I really want a hot chocolate. Cathy tries to bring some apology fish and chips to...
I've just written Cathy. Cathy tries to bring Cathy some apology fish and chips and gets it thrown back in her face. Cathy is who... No, she goes over to...
Which person does she
Gemma.
give it to?
Gemma she goes
Why?
to, doesn't she? Oh, I don't know, because they all hate her for being a massive troll.
I want to know, did she get these fish and chips before or after the fish shop was raided for being a drugs ring? Like, could you... If they started raiding it, could you be like, look... Can I just get some fish and chips for free? Are you going to chuck those out? I'll test them. I'll let you know if there's drugs in them. I promise. Or do you think she went around the back and just got it out of the bins?
Yeah.
She has to walk off. She doesn't even accept them.
No.
Whoever it was.
I think it was Gemma, but it might have been Tracy.
I wasn't paying attention. I was doing good tweets. Cathy heads to Roy's later, and he says, you tell Alex and let him know what's going on before he sees the messages himself. But it turns out that he's already seen it and he has been sticking up for her online and been trolled himself. And so she tells him to delete all his social media. He hangs up on her and Amy hears about this and she's like, oh, but he wasn't supposed to get hurt. It was only supposed to hurt the person who's the worst, which is you, Cathy, you horrible, evil woman. And we all learned something about revenge that day.
Yeah, it's bad.
Don't do it.
Yeah, so I've seen different opinions on this one as well. I think some people are saying, you know, that this does happen and cancel culture is a major thing. And
Cancel, not council.
I said cancel culture, especially
we know cancel culture.
Younger people, and it's interesting, I guess, that they've made it an older couple that this is happening to. But I just can't watch this without thinking that it is blown massively out of proportion. And Cathy got a little bit tiddly a couple of weeks ago, put a message on, has profusely apologised about it since. And for that to blow into, you know, nobody's going to the cabin anymore, people are throwing bricks through it, it just feels like, would it really get that big? Is there, have the people of Weatherfield got nothing else to interest them that they have to pick up on this? I don't know. You know, are you feeling the same?
It does feel silly. It feels like we're supposed to think this is perhaps shorthand. I don't know. It's unconvincing.
It's not like it feels like they're trying to teach us a lesson in a bit of a cat-handed way, and it's not the first time that Coronation Street has done that.
It feels a bit like they're like, don't be mean to us on Twitter.
But it's all, you're not really seeing lots of people hating Cathy either, are you? I mean, there's Tracy, there's who else is having a go?
The thing is about this is that if it's supposed to be a story about like don't be mean on social media, look at the consequences. The people that are getting mad about it are worse than Cathy because all she did was say something anonymously and mean about somebody, but she didn't throw bricks through people's windows.
Yeah.
It feels like this is almost in defence of trolls because it's like, just because someone's mean on the internet doesn't mean you have to be mean to them in real life.
Who threw the brick, I wonder?
It's always anonymous randos, isn't it?
Mm.
Just because someone's mean on the internet doesn't mean you're allowed to start stocking newspapers, Dev. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
It's kind of a confusing story. And when I thought that they were going to do a trolling storyline, I thought, oh, brilliant, because this is relevant and interesting and there's a lot to say about this. But it does feel like a very stereotypically cat-handed Coronation Street tries to do technology, doesn't understand what the hell it's talking about, even though, for God's sake, every single person who works there knows what Twitter is and has used it and seen it. And surely, I don't know how they come up with... How do they mangle this so much?
Trolling to me is something that happens more than once. It's like bullying, isn't it? When children come up to me at school and say, "Oh, I'm being bullied," and
Like
actually all that's happened, somebody
once.
said something mean. Yeah, exactly. It's like that's
Because
not
the thing
bullying.
is that this is an issue. This is a problem, and there are people who spend their whole lives like cyber stalking other people and harassing them, and making new accounts, and pylons are a real thing. That's a different matter, though.
What's that?
Where, you know, somebody instigates a pylon and everyone's saying, "Oh yes, those two people are stealing all the charity money." Notice that that's never come up again, and nobody's like still accusing them of anything, and we still don't know where Tracy got the money from.
I know.
Or
for a
what's
holiday.
happened to the fundraising cash, or whether there is any debts incurred, because we were talking like on the Facebook group, we were like, well, what was the money for? And because at one point they did owe lots of money, and Leanne was racking up her debt. She still owes Imran money, so the whole thing's so confusing. And then on top of it, you have somebody being mean once to somebody else, and then the whole street hating them and becoming worse than she was at the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, I complain about the drug story because it's another kind of sensationalised thing, and this doesn't feel big, but it's being made to look bigger than it actually is.
I really would have liked them to have probably seen something. Like, I really think that Leanne or Tracy or somebody who's had a really hard time, or even Steve, going on in the internet, making themselves lots of accounts and like harassing somebody, that to me feels like more of a story. Like, the psyche of somebody doing that. Why are you doing it? What are you getting out of it? How are you hurting people? And what can be done about it? That's more interesting than basically Coronation Street's explanation for why people troll is they get drunk and they get jealous of someone. There's a lot more interesting...
They get mad because I haven't paid the paper bill.
Yeah, there's way more interesting avenues to explore, because let's also be honest here about what trolling really is. It's usually someone you don't even know.
Yeah,
People
that's true about the
attacking
anonymity
or
of the
obsessing
internet. Yeah.
over somebody they don't know anything about, don't know in real life, making stories up in their little heads, harassing them, getting a moral crusade against them. And it's not a question of left or right wing politics, because I know you said cancel culture, and I know that some people like to say, oh, there's no such thing as cancel culture. There is such a thing as cancel culture, and both sides do it to each other. So let's not pretend that that's a thing. But it is a really fascinating thing, and people can get obsessed, and I'd really like to learn more about that. But
I guess
think
people are being obsessed with being horrible to Cathy and now Alex, aren't
they're
they?
the worst trolls. Like, you're saying this is a trolling storyline. To me, they're being trolled, not the other way around.
Maybe that's what it's supposed to be.
I
I've been
don't
looking
know.
at it wrong.
Well, maybe this
I'm not
is
sure.
this is a new way to look at it, but I don't know what I don't know what Coronation Street's getting at, because I like I said, it really feels like it was like a C storyline that they thought would just chuck it in. We don't need to concentrate on it, but this is the stuff that they should be doing more about, because this is a thing about humans. This is why it's interesting. It's not about like drug dealing and who says what to who, and are you wearing a wire, and what's the witness protection program, like blah blah blah. That's all nebulous stuff, and they've been criticised on the internet for not understanding how police work and like putting people off of being witnesses and stuff. I saw somebody commenting, they didn't explain why that Coronation Street portrayed this wrongly, which is unfortunate, because they could have taught people what the actual fact of the matter was. That would have been more helpful. But this trolling stuff, this is psychology, this is human psychology. Soap should be about that and how people interact with each other. I can't think of a more interesting, relevant or absorbing story. I tell you another character who would be quite susceptible to this, and that's Jenny. I can definitely see Jenny going on the internet and having a go at people, and
Yeah, definitely.
I just think.
I mean, it's like when she signed Liz up for that.
Yeah, Charlotte Tracker.
Yeah.
It just feels like a missed opportunity, and it feels like because they think they've done it now, that's it. They're not going to do it again. But there are so few opportunities in life for them to have a completely new avenue to go down to talk about how people relate to one another, and it's usually driven by technology, and they just miss it every time. To me, that's how I feel. The same thing I feel that with the Bernie and the Kel story, where they had the catfishing and the people who attack people that they say are paedophiles. So fascinating, and so much to talk about, and so much conflict, and two sides that you've got the person who is accused, and you've got the person who's crusading, and are they really helping, or are they making it worse? We brushed on it, but I just think that these are all topics. Honestly, you could make a whole drama out of them. Like one of these little mini dramas. You can make a whole thing just of that topic. And if Coronation Street takes one of those topics that's so rich and then gives it just a very cursory little, lick of paint, and then says, there you go, I've renovated it, it just feels like, no, you missed your chance here.
Yeah.
It just feels like a missed opportunity.
Next story. I think a lot of the rest of it was just kind of reminding us of things that are going on. This Peter,
something on Friday could happen.
Yeah, which obviously hasn't had the chance to. Because a lot of the beginning of Wednesday's episode was reminding us that Peter and Carla are kind of fine with each other now, and are they having happy times together, and they've put everything behind them. Steve's still being an arse to Peter, who doesn't forgive him for
letting him die.
Whatever. And Lucas is still hanging around, and there's potential for Carla to go off with him, but she's got no intention of meeting with him when she finds out that there's something scheduled. So she goes off home, and Sarah has to do the meeting instead. Peter's on the phone to the hospital. He's booking an appointment for Friday. Guess that's being delayed till Monday
Cancelled.
now. And Steve comes in, and he's humble at last. So that little argy-bargy they had at the beginning of the episode
wants to be his friend.
Went to nothing. Yeah, so they have a little cream tea together, don't they?
Oh yeah.
Sarah's mad at Carla for jibbing out of the meeting, she says. Carla says, fine, I quit the factory.
What? Where did this... Do you see what I mean? There were so many things in this week where it was just like so glib, and it didn't get given any time for you to absorb what the heck's going on. And because it wasn't given any impact, you're like, is she quit or is she not quit? I don't even know now.
Does it matter?
Yeah, does it matter?
Back and forth.
And the other thing, the problem with all of these characters is they don't live in reality, and they should do. They should be grounded. They should be the most boring, grounded characters on television, because those are the problems in the stories that exist in real life and that people can relate to. Carla has not got a job now. What, is she independently wealthy? Is like...
Well, she's still got the beard oil business to fall back on, I guess.
Is Johnny a secret oil baron or something? Like, do you know, like, she should be panicking that she hasn't got a job. And this is why it gets slightly unrelatable, because you can't empathise with people who can just quit their job and sort of flick their hair and walk out, or move to Australia the day after they thought of the idea.
No,
just
you're
really,
right. You're right.
Fails sometimes on a very fundamental level.
Peter does tell her that she can't just jack the job in because of him. He trusts her with Lucas and everything.
No, but he said that you can't just jack it in for me. He's not like, what the hell are we going to do about money? And then he's like, oh yeah, that's true. We don't need money because we just
We're just living in my granddad's house at the moment.
Just live off
He's
everyone
mysteriously
else.
Disappeared.
Like a pair of ticks.
Yeah, they have
a dog's ear.
They have a little thing at the end of the episode where they're saying, "Oh, we've got something planned next week." Wink, wink. And I don't know whether we're supposed to not know what that is, but I kind of do know what it is because I've seen a picture of it for upcoming spoilers. So I don't really want to speculate, but. Yeah, a lot of this was just a bit boring and reminding of what's happened so far. The big change, I guess, is that Carla's quit the factory, but...
She says she wants a new challenge.
You kind of forget...
What does that mean?
You kind of forget that she works there anyway. I know that Nick and Sarah definitely work there.
Everyone just seems to work there, but do nothing.
Well, and how many other people have they had leave there recently? Paul's left there. Who else has that been?
Don't know.
Sean has left the factory.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
But it just doesn't...
Also, the fact that the Sarah gave no craps about this. Carla's only worked there to do
she
Sarah
kind of,
a
yeah,
favour.
she joined to help back
She's
it
like,
out again.
whatever,
She?
Carla, don't let the door hit you on the way out. You've just been nothing but a liability to me.
They
Literally,
need to close that factory.
Sarah doesn't know anything. She reminds me of like, she's like a business baby, like with Monopoly money, thinking that she's working on doing a job.
Yeah. The whole factory is just a mess at the moment. It really, really is.
It's like my first Barbie business.
Considering Coronation
factory.
Street has had a very long and successful period of history, of factories on the street.
Think about Sarah, and I don't, bless her, she's a fine character. She shouldn't be in charge of the factory. Let's compare her to Mike Baldwin. What the hell is she doing there? She shouldn't be there. Even Adam Barlow, who, you know, tried to take over when he came in and everything, he'd be better in there. And he's a lawyer. He doesn't know anything about pants.
Well, the other problem with Sarah is if Nick does indeed go into witness protection with Carla,
with
Leanne, Sarah's going to be left running the place by herself. But she doesn't seem to have any staff that work there anyway. She
hasn't even got
Sarah,
Lena
Kirk
on his
and
full
Dirk.
time.
No. Right, Snarky and George, Gemma. Funeral
I feel
party.
really...
What?
Sorry, black cat's outside. They made me jump.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I feel really bad that I'm just sitting here and being so snitty about everything today.
It hasn't grabbed us this week.
It's like sometimes you just like, something can be just not like a full, you know, 5 out of 5, and then immediately you're like deconstructing everything about it and saying that the whole thing is rotten and it should be cancelled. Like, I don't think that's my normal feelings about Coronation Street. I usually don't care about some of these things I'm complaining about today, but when it all piles on top of you, you start to nitpick, and that is exactly what I have been doing, so I apologise.
I quite enjoyed this Todd and George stuff, to be fair. I mean, there wasn't really a story going on,
this was George
was it?
being a bit of a dick, I thought. So on Wednesday, Todd's getting ready for his first day, and he's trying to decide what colour tie to
the
wear.
navy tie or the black tie?
He starts, and basically George spends the whole day negging him. He's made this like list of ideas for what to do.
Put a business proposal together.
He's got all these really quite good ideas. But immediately George is like, you don't need to wear a black tie every day. I don't know who you think you are. Oh, thank you for these instructions. I'll use them as a tea coaster. Then he goes to the cafe, does George, with Alina for a break, and he moans to her about Todd, which is a bad move because Eileen's like me. You can be mean about my anything you like, but if you start attacking things that are very dear to me, I take it too personally. And also, like with Coronation Street, I can record myself for 2 hours saying it's the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. But if somebody says to me they prefer EastEnders, I'll immediately start trying to gouge their eyes out with a rusty spoon for insulting my favourite thing in the world.
Yes.
So anyway, this is what George is doing. Basically, he's slagging off Coronation Street and saying EastEnders is better, and Eileen takes a great offence to it. Yeah, he says, stop being such a stick in the mud. Maybe Todd's got a point.
Well, George is saying, listen, the Shuttleworth funeral parlour has been around for hundreds of years, or over 100 years. I know what I'm doing, thank you very much. And I don't need some trumped up, young guy with a business idea telling me how to rejuvenate everything. It's going fine, thank you very much.
The thing is about it is that if people are still dying and there's no difference in what you do with them after they're dead, it doesn't feel like innovation is the most important part of your job.
No.
And I don't know that people. I think Todd came up with some really good ideas, but I don't know that when you're planning a funeral, you go in and you're like, wow me. Give me some great ideas for what we can do for this event.
The thing with Todd is he's very bright and intelligent, isn't he? And I imagine that just being there, making the tea or dusting the sideboard or whatever.
That's what he got told to do.
Yeah, it's not gonna, it's not going to use his full potential.
But this was a really great story. This was a well-observed, really great series of character conflicts, and this is what Coronation Street can do very well.
Yeah, and George comes across as being quite cosy and traditional and just and not necessarily ambitious. He just, it's the family business. We've always done it this way. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you've got a young, ambitious guy who's very intelligent coming in, quite brash, giving his opinions. You've got a guy who's been doing it his whole life, and his dad before him, and his granddad before that probably, going, I don't know who the hell you think you are. It's your first day and you're telling me how to do my job. Thanks very much, but go and make the tea. And then you've got him saying to the boy's mum, God, I'm fed up with this kid. He thinks he knows everything. Eileen's like, yeah, he does, but you can't tell me that because I don't want to hear it because that's my son. Then she goes off to see Todd, and she's like, you're being a bit of a dickhead. You don't need to tell him that, you know, people should be buried upside down from now on because you've had a great idea about it. Then she goes back to George and she says, sorry, I was a bit defensive earlier, but, you know, he's my pride and joy. You know, now Jason's in Thailand and everything. But Todd then senses a spark between his boss and his mum.
Well, that seems to have been...
But we thought that. It's been going on for ages.
No, there wasn't a big surprise, but it looks like it's stepping up a gear now, which
now,
is nice.
I
think they'd be quite nice together.
Does Todd want this to happen or not? Because Todd could be quite...
any opportunity that Todd can get for taking advantage of a situation, he will. Like, does it benefit him for his mum to be going out with his boss?
This is surely what he's trying to work out now. Like, if I get them together, will they be grateful to me? Will that give me a bit of leeway here? Like, if I get him invested in my mum, will he leave me alone? Can I stick my oar in here a bit more? If he's off shagging my mum, I can maybe put my stamp on the place.
Yeah, I wonder, does he want to take over the funeral parlour or something? I mean, it feels unrealistic for somebody to just be permanently sneaky and always looking for a way to one-up somebody else all the time. But, you know, in a situation where Todd is just there serving, it doesn't feel quite right for him. So it wouldn't surprise me if he did have his own plans, especially when his, you know, trying to do it above board and making a business proposal and everything was just thrown back in his face.
This is the thing that quite often happens to Todd, is that he will try to do something the correct way, in inverted commas, and then it'll get thrown back in his face. And it sort of throws him down the path of doing things wrong. But you were saying about how can somebody exist just manipulating people, you know, is there not a day off for them? This reminded me of something I watched yesterday, which people might be interested in. If you're a student of human nature, perhaps you are if you're listening to this because you like learning about different people. I watched this really fascinating YouTube series yesterday, and it's really quite short. Each episode is about 5 minutes long. I always watch them on double speed, so it takes half the time. It's called Ask a Psychopath, and there's a series of, I think, five videos. Ask a Psychopath. The first one's called What is Your Background? So if you search Ask a Psychopath, What is Your Background, you'll find it's one channel, and that's the only thing they've got on there, just those ones. And it's really fascinating. It's this woman who is a diagnosed psychopath, or she calls herself a sociopath. Actually, there's no difference, I don't think. Talking about what it's like for her to be a psychopath, and the experiences that she's had and what she gets up to and how she found out about it and what she's done about it and things. And it's really interesting because she's saying things like, I don't have a really wide range of emotions. I don't care if somebody is mad at me. And I realise, like, the reason that she sought treatment for it was that she realised that every 3 years or so, her whole life just collapses because she doesn't know how to interact with people except to manipulate them.
Oh, okay.
And that's what made me think of Todd, because Todd is like that. And they don't play it properly because they didn't set out to make him like this, so they're not following the sort of the... It's kind of like what they do with Roy, where he's clearly on the autism spectrum, but they daren't say it because they don't want to be told off for doing it wrong, and they don't want to be disrespectful, which I can understand. But Todd's manipulating people and sort of doing it without really meaning to, and is it benefiting him? I don't know. It's just a really interesting series to watch, and when I was watching it, I was thinking, God, I would love it if I had a character like this on Coronation Street. Somebody who just genuinely doesn't... And there's nobody like it on there, but somebody who just genuinely doesn't get why they should care about what people think.
Maybe... Well, Tracy is sometimes a bit like that, isn't she?
No. This woman genuinely did not seem to think that she would ever really sympathise with other people. And, the other thing, she's like, why would I? Well, I don't understand why I would do. What does it... Watch it. It's so interesting. It really is interesting.
So where do you think this is going? Do you think this is going to go anywhere particularly? Is Todd going to try and take over the business? Has he been suitably put in his place? Is he going to try and screw George over? And
I don't know. See,
But I'm kind of interested to find out, which is more than I can say for some of the other stories.
Yeah, this is probably one of the most interesting bits.
Yeah.
This is a question like, is this a Todd story? Is this a George story? Is this a funeral parlour story? Because depending on what it is, depends on how this will progress. Because if this is a Todd story, then, you know, don't get comfortable in that funeral set because he'll have it burned down within a week.
I think there's definitely going to go somewhere with Eileen and George. I mean, as soon as he finds out that she's secretly got a love of dead bodies and pies, then he's going to be like, "Oh, you're my soulmate.
You're my Mrs. Sweeney or whatever."
Yeah, Mrs. Todd.
Mrs. Todd, yeah.
Mrs. Lovett was the.
That's right, the pie maker.
Yeah.
Don't ever combine those two interests, people. If you're listening.
Right, we got Faye, who just watches some films with Elaine basically on Monday, haven't we?
Yeah, Elaine wants to be her nice grandma before she goes to prison, so she wants to watch a load of movies.
Old films.
But she was supposed to be having a date with Craig.
While Sally and Tim are in Formby.
They end up going to bed together. And
yeah,
that's Craig and Faye, not Elaine and Faye or Elaine and Craig.
She makes her googly eyes at him and then they go upstairs and great. And then we also had a bit more of the Seb and Nina, who Seb threatens to cut off his hair on Monday and then he doesn't. And
wow.
And she likes him. So again, not really much going on there. I'm just looking through the notes. No, nothing.
Buys her an Easter. She buys.
Seb comes round the cafe with an Easter egg for Nina.
Great.
The
end.
The end of that, really. We'll see what happens next week. So we kind of run out of steam a bit.
It's a bit of an unsatisfactory ending there to the week because it wasn't supposed to.
No, but it's weird because I have seen people online saying this has been a really, really strong week, and it just doesn't feel like it in the slightest to me. It's fine to me.
Well, the thing is about it, some of what annoyed me about this week is like people's reactions to it, which shouldn't really be
real life people.
Yeah, shouldn't really be Coronation Street's fault. Or I shouldn't hold it against the show and say, "Oh, I don't like it because of that." But it does put you in a bad mood.
Character of the week this week.
Hang on, you haven't even scored it.
Well, I can do whatever order I want. Maybe I want to do my character of the week first.
Oh, suddenly Prince Philip dies and you're like, it's anarchy, we can do whatever we want now. He's not going to tell us no.
My character of the week. Blimey. Can I give it to Evelyn on the phone for wanting to string tie up?
Can we give it to Chesney for telling Tyrone that he was the worst?
You can give it to Chesney if you want. That's not a bad nomination.
I don't want to create.
I do like it when Chesney and Fizz have scenes together. They have got a really nice brother sister thing going on. No, I'll give it to Fizz. I'll just give it to Fizz again for continuing to stick it to Tyrone and quite rightly putting him in his place for.
I don't know if I want to give it to Alina, even though she's a harlot. Because she did tell Tyrone that she was like, "No, I don't love you anymore." Also,
could give it to Leanne.
No. Also, I like. I feel bad for her, but I don't know.
Fizz, I'm saying Fizz, and I am giving this half week, 2.5 knickers in a packet that Fizz has bought. I did like that line. She said, "I buy my knickers in a packet of 10, and sometimes he comes to bed without brushing his teeth." That was a good line.
Well, that's just marriage. I tell you what, it's a good job that she did that. They're not going to get married because if they can't cope with it beforehand, they ain't going to like it.
Yeah,
it doesn't magically change once you get married.
Yeah, 2.5 knickers in a packet. I'm giving it. What are you giving it?
Yeah, 2.5. Snazzy, but still respectful funeral parlours.
Nice. Out of 5. Lovely.
I haven't given them my character of the week.
No, you're not giving it to Chaz?
No, I'm not giving it to Chesney. I said I don't want to create a precedent.
Sometimes.
I just feel like a protest. I feel like I don't want to give it to anybody.
You must.
Everybody's such an arsehole, including me.
Can't give it to yourself.
Yeah, the character of the week goes to Gemma for putting up with all of this nonsense this week. Oh, who's in it? I don't even know.
Tyrone, Fizz, Alina, Gemma, Chesney, Leanne, Nick, Harvey, Ned.
Where's
Peter.
Pedo Van Man when you need him? I bet you it was Ned what drove that.
Go on, say someone.
I just hate everything now. I feel really miserable.
You gave it 2.5, which is could have been worse.
I'll give it 2.
Todd.
I'm giving it 2.
George.
I'm giving it 2.
You're giving it 2.
I'm giving it 2.
Okay.
Oh, this week has been such a bad week. It's been a horrible week. And then today was awful. Poor Prince Philip. I feel so sad. And now you want me to give it a score and tell you who my character of the week is.
There has been another setback in our house moving as well.
Nobody will understand the terror and horror that I live in every day. Nobody sympathises with me being forced to do this every week.
Stop talking and tell me who your character of the week is.
I don't know who it could be. If we're gonna... Oh my god. It wasn't even a pet I could give it to.
Peanut was on it.
I'll give it to Peanut. Peanut gets the award.
Oh my gosh.
Best character.
Oh, I hope next week.
All human beings suck.
It feels like... Well, where are we now? We're in April. And it just feels like Corrie hasn't quite got going enough for the year yet.
I don't want to talk about it anymore.
Oh, but...
I was kind of trying to try really hard today to make this upbeat and not be miserable, but I'm so sad I can't do it.
It's gonna get. It goes through its peaks and its troughs, doesn't it? I always say that.
Well, and the other thing is, it's not just also Coronation Street. It's how you feel, how you're feeling, and how you relate to the stories.
Yeah, thank goodness for the Fizz and Tyrone storyline this week, basically.